This is Mommying While Muslim, recorded live and unedited. Watch as Zeba and Uzma record their podcast, see their reactions, and find out for yourself what all the buzz is about.
Back again to sponsor our podcast is Muslim Kids TV with the 25% discount using code MK2021. Have your kids play both secular and Islamic games and catch Islamic videos you won't find anywhere else. These games are coded primarily by Muslim moms, so you're never going to hate your kids having electronics again. Another one of our sponsors this month is Guidance Residential, bringing you an upcoming webinar titled Explore a Growing Niche Market Opportunity for Real Estate Agents. All of our Muslim mommy realtors, this one's for you, coming June 2nd at 12 p.m. Eastern, RSVP at the link shown. Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome to another episode of Mommyingwhilemuslim. This is Uzma Jaffrey.
And this is Zeba Hassan. We haven't actually recorded live since Eid, since before Eid.
Since before Eid, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So I feel like I haven't seen you. So like we have to do like our quick like recaps to like our text, like what's going on? How is it? What's the dealio?
I know, what's the dealio? For me, I have realized that I need your help because now when I knock on my brand new teenager's room, there's some mad rustling going on before he says, come in.
You got to be careful, girly, before you walk into those rooms, okay?
Yeah. And I'm like, honey, what's your wrestling?
You don't ask that question.
I was like, what were you doing?
You.
I know. There are some things you just don't want to know, but I sincerely, truly want to know. And he's like, I'm reading a book, but the book is way on the other side of the room. So it's like, what exactly do I want to know? So I'm starting to try to figure out how to work up the courage to really get honest and real. But we reviewed our hygiene rules and suggestions and the shower protocol, the deodorant protocol, all of that. But that's something that I'm learning, and I'm going to have to lean on you a little bit more hot and heavy, like just in case there's some hot and heaviness going on that I don't want to get into over there. So it's coming. Maybe it's here.
It's coming. It's probably already there. You'll start noticing it when you get the multiple showers per day. Then you're just like, okay, how many showers are you taking per day? You're just going to have to let it go. Don't mention it. We did remove, we do remove the locks from the doors. I do have to say that just for safety reasons, because there were times where like the fire alarm was going off and I'm like, I can't not get into your room. But, out of respect for the kids, I always do a courtesy knock. I wait a second, then walk in the door. This goes for my boys and for my girl, because they're at that age. Zara has no problem saying, I'm naked, don't come in here. But the boys always say, you need to hold on a second, which is always so funny. But the truth of the matter is you've already got it. You've given them the tools. If they want to talk to you about it, they will. And you just kind of have to take a deep breath and say, Bismillah, and pray for the best. And it's okay. It's a normal part of going through the process. It's not fun because they're not your babies anymore.
I know. Yeah, when he turned 13 this week, I cried all the way to work.
Mm-hmm. So. There's something about your first. Everyone's always like, oh, you're first. But guess what? You're first, you're growing and learning with them, right? Yeah. Every step of the way. And maybe with your first other gendered kid, right? So if you have one boy, one girl, everything you're going through with that particular child is like your first experience. So, and you remember everything so vividly, right? Like every single thing you remember so vividly. And you're kind of learning, you became a parent, you were birthed as a mom with that child. So every kind of experience that you have is going through that with them. So I mean, I cry every birthday. Mine is going to be 18 in a couple of months. And I just am like, how, first of all, I still feel in my brain that I'm 18. So the fact that he's 18, I'm like, how is that even possible? But you know what? Like, then I look at him and I'm like, I'm proud of who he's turning into. Minor tweaks here and there. We're still working on it. So, multiple showers aside, you're doing what you're doing. But the one thing I did have to say and point out, which I thought was super funny, and I'm wearing it today, was we gave each other the same exact
Yes. Oh, I didn't
Eve
wear
gift.
mine. That is so insane.
Is that not the weirdest thing? I opened up my Eve gift and I'm like,
What?
Ozma,
Did they send it
oh
to me
my
by accident?
God. I literally was like, what? Why would they do that? Ozma's always making fun of me for like personalizing everything.
Her underwear
And that
bag.
is because they don't even sell Z initials. At least, other growing up, I didn't even get a chance to have the Z initials. So you best believe I put Z on every single freaking thing. And I opened it up and I'm like, you've got to be joking. And Zephyr was sitting with me on the porch and he goes, you guys are the biggest nerds I have ever met in my life. It's kind of like
Great
that
minds think
story.
alike, Zephyr.
Exactly.
Whatever.
It's kind of like that story, The Gift of the Magi, or kind of the opposite, where you're kind of just giving both the gifts at the same time. But I just thought I loved it. But the best part about it was the card. So I want you to know the card is going into my little special box. So when we're old and gray and sitting on our rocking chairs together, hopefully we make it to that point, girl,
Inshallah.
because I'm already going gray. Henna aside, let's just be real. I started doing the henna because I am getting gray. And so thank you so much for the card and for the gift. And
You're
I
so
love
welcome.
it. Eid Mubarak.
Absolutely.
So I know you have a soapbox for this week that we're going to be talking about. We kind of avoided talking about it until now. So I'm going to give the mic to you, put myself on mute, and let you do what you do.
Well, I'm going to talk about how Mommyingwhilemuslim has not been talking about what's going on in Palestine. And because we have a special coming on as part of our programming after talking to our Palestinian mom sisters on how to do this appropriately and how to talk about this appropriately, we decided, okay, now we are ready to speak, because while reposting and posting stuff has its merit and has its value and has its importance, and while educating the masses has its merits and has its place and has its importance, we still did not feel like Palestinian people were being seen and heard. And that's something that we have noticed, I would say, arguably since we were children. And we wanted that to change, because no matter what's happened in all of the wars in Palestine that we've lived through, all of the assaults that have happened on our brothers and sisters there, we have never once seen a lasting, sustaining voice maintained out of Palestine. The voices are there, the people are there, the strength is there, but the platforms are just not given. So the gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given Zeba and myself is this platform, is this podcast. And so we invited our Palestinian mom sisters, and we do hope that if you didn't get a chance to tune in live, that you're going to go back and take a listen to it, watch it, hear the narrative, decide for yourself what information you're going to allow into your repertoire and into your mind, and how open your minds and hearts are going to be. We know we've been hearing so long about fake news and fake media, and Zeba and I have said it over and over again in multiple places. We knew fake news existed when we were kids, when the story of Palestine was not being told in the way that we understood it as children, because obviously our parents taught it to us from the Muslim perspective. That is coming to the forefront. The narrative is changing, and we want to give our platform to the right people to use their voices that they have, that we're not giving them, and they don't need anyone to speak for them. They can do it themselves. That's what we believe at Mommyingwhilemuslim, and that's what we're going to promote at Mommyingwhilemuslim. And we're going to ask that everybody elevate Palestinian voices that already exist, and do not speak for them, and do not try to represent them, because that is not the diaspora that we represent, and we would never try to. But it is the diaspora with whom we empathize, and to whom we pledge allegiance. And for all of those mom sisters who DM'd us and privately reached out and said, please say something, please do something, please use your platform, rest assured, it was happening all along. We just had to make sure that we did it responsibly. And our soapbox is to make sure that you check back on us and check our Facebook group, check our Facebook videos for anything that you've missed regarding what's happening in Palestine right now. And that's our soapbox for today.
Thank you so much for that soapbox, Uzma. And like I said, we are not promoting, we love our Jewish brothers and sisters, and that has never changed. We are very much an interfaith podcast, but what we are trying to do is give voice to the voiceless, and let them hold the mic. So we want to make sure that we do that. And part of that is, continuing our series right now. And this month's series is Mommings in the Masjid, because as you know, we don't necessarily have a voice there either. And that includes a lot about us talking about what's kind of wrong in the masjid these days. But, we aren't necessarily complainers. We are solution makers. And part of that is using our sisters in the industry. And, oh, I'm sorry about that. Hopefully Joe gets that out, because my daughter is texting me at the same time and I am looking at my notes on my phone, because apparently her legs are hurting. So I'm going to go back and repeat that. And this is why we are live and unedited, so all you people can see that. And thank you, Uzma, for the notes. We are going ahead and starting this month's Mommies in the Masjid series, and that includes a lot about us talking about what is wrong. But we're not necessarily complainers, though we do seem to complain a lot, especially as our aches and pains getting up in the mornings these days. But guess what? We are also solution finders. And if that's possible, we are going to try to find that here at Mommyingwhilemuslim. And alhamdulillah, it is possible to make mommies happy at the masjid. And joining us today is one of our fellow mom sisters and podcasters, Hurunnessa Fariad, co-host of Sister Act podcast, and our fellow sister in the industry. She has a degree in English literature and elementary education. She serves as the head of the outreach, PR, and interfaith at the All Dallas area Muslim Society, or Adam Center, as it's known here. It's the second largest mosque in the United States, and she represents Adam Center often in the media as an active member of multiple interfaith efforts and a former chair of religious affairs in Fairfax County NAACP. Hurunnessa is also the music director of the America's first mosque youth choir, Adam's Beat, which she started on her own accord in 2016. Adam's Beat is actively involved in interfaith and advocacy work, and they came to our St. Jude's event and was part of the success. So we really appreciate them for being there, and we definitely welcome Hurunnessa, and we call her Huri. Huri, thank you so much for being here today, and dealing with all of our craziness in the background.
Assalamu alaikum, Huri.
Walaikum salam. So nice to be here with you guys. Looking forward to this discussion.
Yeah, I love that you are coming back despite the fact that last time you were on, I couldn't control my face. So I really appreciate it. And I have been exercising it before this episode to make sure that I controlled it. So Huri, for those who don't know you and didn't see or hear the last episode with you, tell us your mom's story and your momming philosophy. And this time I will try to keep my jaw off the ground.
I think like all moms, we struggle to make sure we're raising resilient, kind, and empathetic children. And I think that for me is the biggest thing that I hold in my heart when it comes to my kids, and making sure that my daughters all are well-rounded in this area. And just being kind, I think, is something that we've lost in so many of our efforts as human beings, to recognize that everyone has a right to be loved and to be heard and to be validated. And so for me to emulate that with my daughters is really important. They see me, doing interviews or moderating talks, and sometimes they'll listen in the background, and then they'll get their news from me pretty much sometimes. And it's interesting way of looking at things, but I think that we as mothers play such a huge role in our children's life that we don't really realize it. Even when we're not talking to them, even when we're not in the same room, they're watching everything, they're hearing everything. So we are their biggest role models. And I think that's a great place to be. And I'm so honored to be in that position with 4 daughters, alhamdulillah.
And you're doing a fabulous job at it, mashallah. Give us a quick rundown of your family background and then your interest in, what you do best, which besides mothering appears to be masjid work. So pre and post kids, like how masjid work came into your life. But first we'll start, like we said, with your family background.
Thank you so much. So originally, my parents are both from a city called Samarkand in Uzbekistan. When the Soviets had invaded, they had to flee, and they fled down south into Afghanistan. Grew up there, got married, ran their business, had all of us children there, and then the Soviets came down to invade Afghanistan as well, and they had to flee again as refugees into Pakistan for about 3 years. And we lived in Karachi during those 3 years. About 3 months before, no, 5 months before we came to the United States as refugees, my mother passed away in Karachi. I was 5 years old and the youngest at that in my family. And that was a really hard thing to process. Even till now, it's a really hard thing for me to process being a mother myself. I think not having grown up with a mother is a void that if anyone has gone through it would know what I'm feeling. So we ended up landing at JFK Airport in Queens, New York City. That for me is home. That's where I grew up. I'm a city girl. When anyone says New York City or if they're from there, I tend to gravitate towards them. Then my siblings are still there. I moved to Northern Virginia in 2004. I have four daughters. My eldest is about to turn 21 in a couple of weeks. And so I'm very excited about that. My youngest is almost 13, and I'm a single mom. I've been single mothering it for the past 7 years. My ex is not involved in my children's life at all, except for paying child support. And that's a choice he decided to take. He has not, well, they have not seen him in about almost 7 years, 6.5 years. So they're with me 24/7, and I try to do the best I can when it comes to raising them. It's never perfect. I think there's wisdom behind having a two-parent household, but it is the cards that I've been dealt with, and I'm trying to do the best that I can in that arena. At least I'm trying to make sure for my kids to be good human beings. Um, and then like you said, I had gotten my degree in elementary education and English literature in New York City, but then I stayed home for 10 years when I was married. Right before, a couple of years before my divorce, I started working at the masjid as the vice principal of the school. It was a part-time thing. It was just for me to get out of the house because I had enough of staying home. And so I just felt like I had too much talent wasted just sitting around washing dishes and cooking food. Although there's nothing wrong with that for whoever enjoys doing that, but for me it was just very limiting. And so I decided to take the part-time job. And then when my divorce happened, there was wisdom behind why I was working at the mosque. Being around Imam Majid and local faith leaders, it really helped me process things the way they were going, especially with the fact that my ex decided to leave Islam and convert to Christianity. I'm looking at you, Uzma.
I was waiting. I was like,
Are her
is
eyes
she gonna have her?
like,
Is she gonna do the face?
I'm working on my chill, okay?
Yeah, so he converted to Christianity, and then within 6 months, you know, banged up some chick in Costa Rica, got her pregnant, married her, and so they have about. Was this worse than last time? And then he decided to, yeah, he married her, and then they have I think, a 6-year-old child now, a son, and so, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But it's been tough on my kids because he was a very involved father when he was around, and for it to just completely stop, it really affected my older two. My youngest, she was 5, she doesn't even remember him, and I feel bad for her too because she's always longing for like a male attachment. So she's very attached to my brothers, but whenever she sees like a male father figure, she tends to sit with him or she starts to talk with him because she doesn't know what that's like. So I give her that much space to be able to do that. And then after a couple of years, well, during that time while I was a vice principal, leadership at Adams would pull me out and have me do the CNN interview or the Fox News interview because I was raised here. I'm visibly Muslim and a female. and they said I was articulate in getting the message across. So they were always pulling me out. And one day they said, well, would you be able to do this as a full-time job? So I ended up transitioning out of the school and into this position full-time. And I've been doing this for almost 4 years. I head the outreach and interfaith department at Adams Center. And recently during COVID, with the work that I've been doing, I was offered a job with another organization, which I could not pass on because that's exactly where I want my career to go. So I took on the position of also being the director of outreach for Multi-Faith Neighbors Network. So I have an imam as a boss, an evangelical Christian pastor as a boss, and a Jewish rabbi as a boss. So if that doesn't, sound multi-faith, then I don't know what else does. So it's a great opportunity, and I'm so blessed to have it come to me, and I did not have to go looking for it. I think God knows where he wants to take you, and whatever is good for you, he will bring it to you with no effort. You just have to believe in that. So I'm really excited. I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling this year, inshallah, at the end of the year, especially with COVID going down, and just resonating this idea of combating Islamophobia and anti-Semitism in the United States and around the world is something that I am passionate about. Especially advocating for religious minorities in Muslim majority countries is work that we Muslims have to do as well. And empowering women in this role is something that I want other people to see and to know that women are just as capable as men, and that unfortunately we haven't been given seat at the table majority of the time. But I'm hoping that that narrative will shift and we will see more women at the table and at speaking engagements.
I mean, like from your mouth to God's ears, because I will be very, very much excited about that. And I mean, how amazing that the institution that you're a part of is doing that work, that groundbreaking work. And so let's talk a little bit about all the right things that Adams Center is doing for women leadership right now, right? And that is kind of making you their face woman, right? Their spokeswoman. So let's talk a little bit about why and how that is, and how they can kind of set the tone for other masajids in, and I use the right term, not mosques, masajids in the United States.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I usually use mosques because when it's anyone who's not a Muslim, you're trying to explain what a mosque is, they will ask you again, like, what is that?
Yes, exactly.
And then when you say mosque, they're like, oh, okay. I hate using the word mosque, but it just becomes so much easier to have a conversation without having to define words. So whether it's masajid or mosques. So I think one of the most important things that I point out to women is to believe in yourself. Because no matter where you're going, what you're doing, you will always have naysayers. And that's the unfortunate part, especially within the Muslim community. So you have to believe in yourself. Majority of the masajids that you see across the United States don't have full-time employees. They don't have an outreach or interfaith department. They're barely been able to pay their imams a salary. Mm-hmm. So we're more of like an idealistic masajid, if you would say, an example for other masjids to follow, but it doesn't mean that what we're doing is something all masjids are able to do because of mostly finances. The other issue is that because our masajids have been so dominated by men, that a lot of times they have a really hard time allowing women to speak or to be in leadership positions. And that's where the narrative has to change. That women can do everything else in the masjid that men can do, except obviously lead the prayer. But you cannot limit women from becoming the president. You cannot, limit women from representing you. You cannot limit women from standing in front of the camera and speaking to multiple news outlets from all over the world because you feel that it's not a woman's job or that the man can do it better. This is not an Islamic concept, and this is something that leadership needs to know and grasp. So when there's an opportunity to speak, Imam Majid, who's our executive imam, will call me up and say, Huri, I need you to go and speak here. And sometimes I get a 2-hour warning, and it's just the way the way of the work works, and the way everything here works. And being so close to DC, we're exposed more. Right. So we have more people looking at, let's see what the mosques have to say. And because We are the second, largest masjid in the United States. We have more people that we serve. We kind of stick out a bit more. And because of everything else that we're doing at Adams, we have over 12 full-time employees, over 300 part-time employees. Most of the part-time employees are all teachers. But again, it's an institution, it's an organization. So it becomes a model for other people to emulate. But when it's coming to women, and I'm going to point this out, that not everyone at every masjid is going to be supportive of women speaking. Hands down, they will not be. I've had instances where our organizations have asked me to speak and other people have said no. And then the organization said, well, if she's not speaking, we don't want anyone coming from the Muslim community. And they've had to like push back. Sometimes, people didn't realize how I speak, even being part of the community, until they hear me at an event. And then they will call me up and say, hey, there's an event going on. We want you to speak. We want you to be the one representing the Muslims. So you're not always going to get the chance to speak, but when you do take it, and for me, I never look at anything as too big or too small. Even if it's there's a local nursing home here that I speak at every year, and I love it. It's nothing big. It's nothing about, limelight or anything like that. But I just love the way they make you feel when you go in there, because they're so loving and they're senior citizens. So they're so cute, and, they have their own perception of Muslims. But when they see a female Muslim in hijab walking in and you talk about who you are, their narrative changes for them as well. And that's the biggest issue, I think, for me, is to know that every opportunity is given to you so that you can go and represent the Muslim women, the Muslims as well, but especially Muslim women being able to go out there and articulate. So leadership definitely has to play a big role in giving you access to that.
I feel like you said, Adams is that unicorn fantasy land masjid that we all would like to see happen in our own neighborhoods and locales, and for our masjid families. You're not the only female in some kind of a leadership or forefront role. Can you talk about some of the other success stories because of Adam's openness, and embracing all the different roles and strengths of women in masjid leadership? How else are women serving Adams in their community?
And before that, I do want to point out that Adams is not perfect. We do have issues that we need to fix even around this area, but in comparison to other masajids, we are definitely ahead of the game in most things. So majority of our heads of department are all female at Adams. So our social service department is the lead, is our social worker, Sue Caffrey. Our education department is led by Sister Esma, who's in charge. Our accounting department is led by a female, our lead accountant, who takes care of all the accounting at Adams headquarters and all the branches. So can you imagine all the payroll and everything that she has to take care of and whatnot? The lead for marriage services and counseling is Suhaira Sultan. I'm sure you guys heard of Suhaib Sultan, Imam Suhaib, his sister. It works here as well. She's a colleague of mine. So you can see that women are in leadership positions here at Adams. And I'm grateful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the ability to put women in this position so people can see that you need women to run organizations. And I will tell you, when women are not involved in organizations, there's so much lacking in that organization, because women just bring a whole different narrative. It's just, there's talent, there's innovation, there's camaraderie, there's empathy, there's this mothering element that we bring even to the male colleagues that we work with. We're the ones who put together, luncheons for each other when someone new comes on or someone new leaves. We bring in perspectives that I feel the men really don't cater to. And that's important for us to see. But it's not our place as places of worship to say that only men can serve here. It's not. So we have to, as women, stick up for each other. And that's the other thing I wanted to talk about, is women sticking up for women. And sometimes that's an issue as well. you know, that we fall into. I've seen it myself.
I was going to say that, like, honestly, I feel like some of our worst enemies are other women,
Yes.
which is shocking to me.
Yes. You'd be
Why? Well, first of all, let's just talk about that. Let's unpack that a little bit. Let's talk about, you know, and I know that this episode wasn't going to be about complaining, so we'll wrap that up. Okay, we'll wrap it up. But I get so frustrated when that happens, when our mom sisters, our female sisters are the ones they're like the anchors on our ankles. What do you think that is about? And hopefully she'll answer that when she comes back. There she is.
I'm trying to turn on the light here.
Oh, the light's turned off.
It wasn't even turning back on, which is weird. So I think it stems from insecurity, to be honest with you. When one female is trying to get ahead in an area and then they see someone else who can do it much better and is getting the attention, and they feel that, why her, not me?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of encouraging her and saying, you know what, you do a better job than I do, why don't you go up there and speak, or why don't you be the one who's representing us? They break you down. They come and tell
Yes.
you, oh, you said the wrong thing and you didn't say this right. And then when you go back and listen to your talk, you're like, I didn't say anything wrong. You know? So what I do is I actually stay away from them. Like, on social media, at an event, I don't let them bring me down, because that is something that they're very prone in doing, unfortunately. And it's so sad to say that these are Muslim women. I
Mm-hmm.
don't get this from women from other faith groups at all. In fact, they're the ones who call me and say, hey, Hurunnessa, I heard you on this talk. I really want you to come to our place and talk to us about this. And you know, it could have just been an easy conversation that I had, but for them, it's like they really enjoyed what I had to say. But it's unfortunate that it's some Muslim women who feel threatened and who feel that, why are you getting the limelight and not me, and I'm doing the same thing? And for me, it's so complicated to even understand it. It's just mind-boggling, because I'm like, there's so much space for everyone to have
Yes.
this
There are
conversation.
multiple stars in the sky, ladies.
Yes, and
Billions
we have to build each other
lighting
up.
up the night sky. It's okay.
We are already battling this concept and this notion of having to compete with men in the room. Now we're bringing each other down. So we need to change the mind frame that if you see someone who is doing a better job than you, instead of bringing them down, you have to lift them up and say your opportunity will come when the time is right.
I think
Um,
that's really important, and like here we are, even though Zeba and I do believe as the oldest head of households, the, mommy type A's that we are very competitive. But, as part of the podcast,
we're
I,
competitive in paving the road for other people.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
It's like,
that
if
is
the
true.
road isn't there, let me dig this road
We
and
want to be the first ones to build it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
pull people along further on.
Yeah, but definitely collaboration. And, speaking to what you said, Hori, there's enough room at the table. The table is long enough because the work is so overwhelming. There's a lot of work to do. And so the more hands on deck, the better. And just because somebody has, a platform right now doesn't mean that there isn't something else we can do. And certainly supporting her, I think, is key. So, you were talking about, the advantages of having more female leadership and what female leadership brings to the maybe the male leaders and their points of view, and expanding that, which is great. And I think we've talked about that before. But you're the mom of 4 daughters.
Mhm.
And I have a daughter, Zeba has a daughter. Can we talk about how female leadership, or lack thereof, affects our daughters? And, as moms of sons as well, what does it teach our sons?
Yes.
That's a great question. I think when you're in a leadership position as a female, your daughters and your sons look at you all the time, like I said before, but now they look at you at a different lens,
Mhm.
right? So I have 4 daughters. When they see me, they know that there's expectations that they can reach whatever dream they have, because I myself, as a single mom, doing all the things I'm doing at work and then taking care of them, really resonates with them in that area, that they understand that you can do all of these things and not let your life circumstances bring you down, right? Whether it's I am on a call trying to, give an interview to CNN. And then at the same time, I have to run to court and worry about my ex-husband taking me for child support, modification, or my daughter's, I need to go pick up my daughter's diabetes medication from the pharmacy. All of that can be done because you believe in yourself, that you're able to do it, right? So you need to emulate that, and they see it to the point where my daughter sometimes she meets like Muslims in the area, and then so she'll ask them like, oh, do you go to Adams? They're like, yeah. She's like, yeah, my mom works there.
Oh yeah.
They're like, oh, who's your mom? And then they're like, oh, she'll say, like, oh yeah, I know her. And then if they don't know me, she'll be like, just Google my mom. Like,
I know, I love that.
yeah, take out your phone. I'll put her name in your Google thing and search it. And I'm like, you did not say that. She's like, yeah, I did. Because she's like, all your videos are there, and all your interviews are there. So she's like, and she told me, she's like, I'm proud of the fact that I can say that. I'm proud of the fact that when my mom is doing great work, or like, listening to some of my web calls when I'm at home, especially in these last couple of days with everything that's been going on, they hear who I'm talking with and what I'm talking about. So they know that I'm involved with talking to, elected, representatives in Congress about the issues in Palestine and the issues that are, plaguing Muslims. That's something other people wouldn't see because it's behind closed doors, right?
Yeah.
But they're hearing it, and they know that, mom is trying to do important work that's not just, hee-hee-ha-ing in front of a computer, but it's actually impactful for people not only here in the United States, but across the world. And you need to let your children see that. You need to let your daughters view you in that work. And for sons, when they're seeing you doing all these things, it empowers them to, when they grow up and when they get married, to encourage their wife or their daughters to get into being advocates and being leaders, because there are very few people, I feel, that don't have leadership skills. We have leadership skills in different areas, right?
Yeah.
Some more than others, but everyone has something they can give to the table. And that's what we have to push. We have to find that and fine tune it, and then allow them to grow. And I feel like when we're like, you two are doing this type of work, your sons are seeing it and saying, hey, my mom was doing all of this.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was a physician, and she had a podcast and she raised her kids. Or, my mom has a podcast and she's raising her kids and she's doing all of this advocacy work outside. I want to encourage my wife and my daughters to be able to do that too, not just limit them to like definitions of cultural things that really doesn't highlight who we are and what we can do. We're not limited to the kitchen.
No, 100%. Even though I always joke that my 8 and 10-year-old thinks our podcast is about changing diapers, because they happened to walk in on an episode where we were talking about potty training. I was like, this episode is about changing diapers, but that's not all we talk about. Just this one. Which they think is hilarious, by the way. But no, I totally 100% agree with you. And, and again, I love to focus that our generation really gets to do that. When we talk about it, like, for God's sakes, you're a 3-time refugee, right? Like your parents were surviving. And unfortunately, your mom didn't even get a chance to do the work that she could have done, right? Unfortunately. And now through that, you get to do that and be that for your daughters. Like, what an amazing, amazing, amazing gift. And who cares if your husband knocked up a girl in Costa Rica and converted and found Jesus? Because you are supposed to be the person that you're supposed to be. And we are here on this day, talking to you, doing all the things. So like, we are blessed to be here with you. Yeah. So thank you so much for that. And
thank you to your ex, because if you didn't do all of that, then we wouldn't have you.
See? God works in mysterious ways.
Got him out the way.
I should send him an email and thank him. Like, thank you for all the wrong things you've done.
Yeah. I think we should all thank people who traumatized us and say, you created this strong woman.
Let me tell you something. If I hadn't gotten divorced, I wouldn't probably not have done all the work.
That's the point.
Exactly.
Sometimes we all emerge, we metamorphosize at different points, and the process is painful. Mm-hmm. That's what people don't understand. All of us, to get to where we need to be, it's a painful process. Like we are like you see this happy, laughable, but we had to get to where we need to be. Some of us get to there in our 20s, some of us in our 30s, cough, me in my 40s. And
Still working on it.
We're still working on it, you know, and that's the beauty, right? Like, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us get there because that was where we had to be. And perhaps we'll start a movement where we send your husband thank you notes. Thank you so much for doing what you did.
So that staying in Costa Rica
be here today. Because what is the perfect revenge is being the person that you are.
Yeah.
And that is today. And we are going to end this right now with our rapid fire. So you have to think quick. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
Okay. I don't even know what I'm going to ask you. Like this is how crazy rapid fire it's going to be. So ready?
Okay.
Okay, I'm pulling it up right now.
Bismillah.
It's like auto generator. Hopefully it doesn't come out bad. Because sometimes that does happen. Oh no, don't put me in Clubhouse. I have to get the stupid Clubhouse off my phone.
Oh yeah, if you tap on it, it takes
you right in. And all of a sudden you hear people talking and you're like, who the heck is that?
Okay, I'm starting the minute timer.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
I lost it. Where did it go, Isma? Where am I?
Technical difficulty. It should be at the bottom of the page.
It is at the bottom of my page. Like why can't I see it? Okay, here we go.
There she goes.
Okay, you ready?
Starting. Boom.
It's not opening. Okay, ready? Because we're going to get to know Huri on a different level. What was your first job?
I worked at Woolworths.
Oh, I remember Woolworths.
That's real?
Yeah.
I used to get my cool earrings from there, for God's sakes. If you could change your name, and we've talked about this because I've seen it before, what would it be?
Well, you know, I was Stephanie for so many years. So
I know, I wanted to say that.
Uzma and me.
Mind blown. Okay.
Totally.
If you could spend a day, because we talk about walking in other people's shoes, you've been, you know, you do all the interfaith work, but if you can walk a day in somebody else's shoes, who would it be?
Mother Teresa.
Oh, I love that.
That's a good one.
So what is one of your favorite memories?
In life?
Yes.
Oh God, so many. It would have to be when I went for Hajj in Mecca. In Medina, I couldn't get into the Rawda because there were so many women. So one night, one of the ladies in our group, she was an elderly lady, she couldn't walk. So she's like, oh, do you mind pushing my wheelchair? I was like, yeah, I can push a wheelchair. So I pushed her in. They were like, Haji, yalla. Next thing you know, we're at the Rawda because of her. Any line. I didn't pray just 2 rakats. I prayed 8 rakats of Nawafil there in the Rawda. So that was like my favorite memory.
I love that.
That's a beautiful one.
That is the perfect one. And I want to end it there, but I always end it with this question because I'm always looking for advice.
Okay.
But what are you making or what are you guys having for dinner tonight? Because I hate cooking for my children.
Same.
That's the worst person. I hate cooking myself.
I hate it.
Yay. We have so much.
You can say DoorDash. You can say Uber Eats. That's a perfectly legitimate answer.
We do eat out a lot. But I think tonight my daughter's cooking shrimp. So some kind of shrimp.
Ooh, getting a daughter to cook is good.
Because
or a son.
Can't do everything.
No, you
That's
can't.
another thing we as women have to realize. I'm like, I can't do anything. You want food? The food's in the fridge. Put it together, cook it, and eat it. Like,
Good.
I love it. Empower our children, our sons and our daughters.
Yes.
My sons make a mean mac and cheese out of the box.
Yes, they do.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Next generation.
Huri, this was really a lot of fun because this month we've been talking so much, and you know, we know that a lot of women have felt like we're criticizing the masjid, and categorically we love the masjid. We just know it can do so much better. Adams has proven that it can be done. Nobody's perfect and nobody's asking for perfect, but we're saying if we don't have, I mean, Adams is probably an anomaly because they have so many women in leadership, but many of us attend masajid and are parts of organizations where there is no female representation. And if the leadership doesn't look like the population that they're there to serve, because leadership always has to remember we are in service. We are not there to boss people around. We are there to serve that population. If it doesn't look like that population, there's no way we're going to serve that population. So that's why we really appreciate you coming on and telling us that it is possible and it can look really good and it can be the second strongest, largest organization in the country representing Muslims. And we can do better. What
Yeah.
thoughts did you?
I want to say one last thing to women is please, please, please apply to get on the boards of masjids if you can.
Yes.
We need more women representation in those specific leadership positions because again, it's mostly almost always men. So don't let anybody discourage you. There's nothing illegal about it. Do what you got to do. Get your name on that ballot.
Love
Yes.
it. And then recruit your sisters in the masjid to support you and say, not get my sister up there. You're not going to see me cooking all the iftars and all the community dinners and everything else you want me to do, but you're not going to represent me. So
Yes,
we
absolutely.
love it. We have the power. Thanks so much, Huri. We always love having you on. And how do I do with my face?
You were great, and there were times when I shocked you, so you go back and watch the video.
I think you were
And
doing it
we're
on
gonna have
purpose
to
to
keep
make me
having
look
her on just to keep shocking Uzma
Yes.
every single time to shock her. That is just
one
perfect
day
enough
it
for
will be
me.
like deadpan.
The
One day.
Stephanie threw her like a
The
curve.
Stephanie did throw me this.
Like,
Okay, Stephanie, we will see you next time. Keep doing what you're doing. And we appreciate you being here on another episode of Mommyingwhilemuslim.
Thank you, ladies.
Assalamualaikum.
So much fun. Walaikum salam.
Back again to sponsor our podcast is Muslim Kids TV with the 25% discount using code MK2021. Have your kids play both secular and Islamic games and catch Islamic videos you won't find anywhere else. These games are coded primarily by Muslim moms, so you're never going to hate your kids having electronics again. Another one of our sponsors this month is Guidance Residential, bringing you an upcoming webinar titled Explore a Growing Niche Market Opportunity for Real Estate Agents. All of our Muslim mommy realtors, this one's for you, coming June 2nd at 12 p.m. Eastern, RSVP at the link shown.